Hi y'all, this is Regina. Welcome back. I am getting ready to test stitch a side seam design with a little gnome girl on it. So let me turn the camera around and show you. Hold on. So here's what I'm getting ready to test stitch. And I'm going to do part applique, part fill stitch. So hold on just a minute. Alright, so I've got my design pulled up. I'm going to stitch the vertical and the horizontal alignment, which is color stop number 1. Alright, color stop 1 has finished. I need to put down my t-shirt, and I'm using a little bitty tiny t-shirt, and I forgot to iron a seam. Alright, so I've got my faux seam ironed in. I'm going to align the bottom of my t-shirt with the stitch below on the bottom, and my fake ironed in side seam I'm going to align with my vertical stitch that was just stitched. Alright, so I've pulled my shirt right down on top of that horizontal line. Color stop number 2 is going to stitch the cut line. So just because we have a cut line, if you don't want to cut it, you don't have to cut it. If you don't want that split in your t-shirt, don't trim it. Alright, so color stop number 3 is a placement stitch. It's pink, and it's going to stitch the outline of her hair. And oops, I forgot to cut the cut line. That's okay. I'm going to let the other side stitch. And I can go in now and cut my opening if I want. Okay, so I'm just going to trim around that little opening. You know, we should actually go to Tahiti. Never wait to celebrate, right? I'm going to have to take this off. I can't go backwards with that. Great. Fill. Thread. Alright, so these scissors are fantastic to cut with. They're Femore scissors, applique scissors. Okay, and they're fantastic. Just to show you, see how close I was able to get? Alright, so now we have our placement line stitched. We need to put our fabric over it. Oh dear, hold on. Alright, so let's see here. Is this going to cover? I've got a strip of fabric from a quilt, and I don't think I'm going to chance it. I'm going to put it this way. So I'm going to let one side stitch, and then I'll do the other side. Alright, so color stop number 4 is your tack down. It helps to lock it down. Don't start. You gotta stop it because it's all one stitch. So I'm going to overlap a little bit, and I'm going to, well, I could have come down a little bit more, Regina. Okay, so now I need to trim the fabric away. All right, so I got it all trimmed out. You see how close I got? And now color stop number 5 is a fill stitch. We're not going to stitch it because we did applique. Hang on. All right, so this is what the fill stitch looks like. So let me go up one. Whoops, that's down. All right, so that's the outline stitch, the tack down that we just stitched. That's the placement stitch. So I'm going to go back down, tack down of your fabric. That's the fill stitch. We did applique. We're not going to do it, so I'm going to skip it. And that's the next step. All right, so we did our tack down. We skipped color stop number 5, which was the fill stitch, if we weren't going to do fabric or vinyl. And now we're going to do the satin stitching. Okay, so I'll be back. All right, I'm finished with color stop number 7, and I forgot to cut that little notch out. Okay, Regina, let's see here. I need to cut this little notch out right here. Okay, these are not cutting. Those cut. All right. All right, so all right, the next color stop is going to start the candy cane. So I've put in white thread. And it's just going to stitch all the white areas of the candy cane, and I'll be back. All right, color stop number 8 does the red part of the candy cane. And it does a continuous stitch until it's done. There's no trims on this. Okay, and I'll be back. All right, color stop number 8 stitches her glove. And just a precaution, I know some of you like to use variegated thread. I tried it in variegated thread on my first go around because I did make some changes, and I really didn't like it. Hang on. So here's what I did earlier. There's the variegated thread for the glove. It just doesn't show up with this candy cane there, so I changed it. I changed the way the bows do, and this part up here, and something else, I don't remember. But I did make the changes. So I'm going to stitch her glove in green. You can use any other color. If you want to use variegated thread, feel free to do it. Maybe a purple or a pink would show up. I don't know. So I'm just going to do it in green. She's got green mittens on to match her green bow that's on her hat. And she does have a thumb. For some of you that had suggested I put a thumb on it, which I had already done. When I posted the picture on the group of what I was working on, the hand just didn't look right, because they just give little fist or something to the gnomes on the clip art. So I did give her a thumb on her mitten. Okay, so color stop number 10 is going to stitch the placement line for her hat for applique. Alright, so this is just a placement line for your fabric. If you're going to do, what in the world is wrong with my stitch? If you're going to do applique, and my t-shirt is doing weirdness that it hasn't done before, you're going to stitch color stop number 10. You're going to place your fabric down over the placement line. Sorry, I can't cut and talk and all right, so I'm going to cover my placement line. Will it go this way? No, yeah. Okay, but first I need to straighten that out. Okay. All right. So I've got it over my placement line. I'm going to stitch color stop 11, which is your tack down. Now it does not have any little cutouts for the bows. So your bows are going to stitch partially on your t-shirt and partially on the hat. So we want to trim this fabric back. This is a really easy trim. Just hold your fabric up. I can, even though I'm holding it up, oh, I'm going to have these sharpened. I can still see my stitch line, and as long as you've got your scissors like this, it'll go right along that stitch line. And I can't cut backwards. So I'm going to hold that fabric up. And voila, we're finished. All right, so now color stop 12 is a fill stitch. All right, let me turn the camera around. Oh. All right, so there is what your fill stitch icon will look like. Now if I go back up, that's my tack down stitch. It's blue. And that was my placement stitch for the hat. Tack down. That's a fill stitch. If you've done applique with the placement stitch and the tack down, you do not want to stitch color stop 12. So you go down to the next one. That's your outline around the hat. Your satin stitching. All right, so I'm going to stitch my satin stitching to cover up my raw edges. And it'll do a running stitch around here, come up here, and I've cut out those satin stitches because of the bows. So if you elect not to do applique or stitch the fill stitches, you still will need to do the bows. You cannot go without doing the bows, because it leaves a void where the bows are going to be stitched. I'll be back. Alright, so I've finished the satin stitching. Now it's time to do the fur part right here. And I'm going to put in my white because I'm going to do her fur in white. The brim of her hat, I guess you could call it. Whoops. Do I want to do... No, I'm going to stitch. I'm going to actually stitch the fill stitch for this. There is no applique on the fur. I guess I could put an applique on the fur. I'll add the applique for the fur. I have not done that, but I will add it in case you want to use applique for the fur. Maybe you have some fur with little swirls on it. I mean, some white fabric with little swirls or something that looks like fur or whatever. I'll put an applique for that. So while this is stitching, I'm going to go over and add that. Alright, I've added the fur, the applique placement and tack down for the brim of the hat. So if you want to do applique for this part that's currently stitching, you'll be able to do applique instead of doing the fill stitch. Alright, the brim of the hat has finished. Now it's time to do the satin stitch. Color stop 15. You definitely want to stitch this no matter what you're doing. And this just puts a satin stitch around the whole brim. Except for where the nose is going to be, right here. Right, whoops, sorry. It does not do satin stitch right here because the nose will be up there. So I'll be back when this is done. Alright, color stop number 16 is going to do the little ball up here on the top. You can do this in any color you want. It stitches the ball and then it does the satin stitching around it. I'm just doing it in white, and now I got to change a bobbin. Color stop 17 stitches the satin stitch around, and I left that separate because if you're doing just the satin stitching, you have to have the ability to have that satin stitching by itself. It makes it a whole lot easier if you're just going to do all the satin stitching. You could stitch that in green or pink, whatever you want. And you could put mylar on top of it and make it sparkly. Along with this too. I didn't even think about that. Oh my gosh, how did I miss that? That I could have put mylar there. Okay, so the next color is green and it's going to stitch the bow. Now it does part of the bow on the hat and part of the bow on the t-shirt. So when it starts stitching off the t-shirt, don't freak out. You could put mylar on top of before this stitch too to make the bow shiny. I don't know if it would show through as much because it has a fill stitch. I gotta test that out first. So the bow stitches next. Sorry, I got involved in something, forgot to turn the camera on. Stitches the green bow, then it stitches the gold bow. And you can make those bows any color you want. So the next color kind of outlines the bows. So I'm going to use a smoky color, not a black, but just kind of a real dark gray. So this just gives the bow some definition. And that's supposed to be a triple stitch. Why isn't it triple stitching? Like that. Okay, I'm going to stop it. And I'm going to back up, but I'll fix that line. All right. I have fixed that stitching on the bow, brought my design back in, just to make sure. I'm going to let it stitch. Yes. Okay, well, I thought I fixed it. Okay, so we're going to skip through that because I've already done this. I'll let it stitch from there because it is supposed to do another stitch, and we'll see if it's going to do it. One there, and one on the other side. All right, and then it'll go over here and it'll stitch this bow. It's not supposed to do, oh, it's going to do the little lines. And it'll do this side, and then it'll do the circle around the stitching around the center of the bow. Alright, then the last thing is the nose. And the very last color stop is the nose. And that is not an applique. You will have to stitch it. And the nose does not have a separate satin stitch because you will need to stitch it. Now the time when you bring it up in your machine or your software says 45 minutes, but that includes all the satin stitching. And this one I've just done some satin stitching. And there she is. Alright, so I forgot to tell you, I used water-soluble stabilizer on this, that fibrous kind. And I just take my applique scissors and cut it back. And then along this edge, I take a Q-tip with hot water and just run the Q-tip around the edge to get rid of the stabilizer. Dexter, stop. And it stays really soft compared to using tearaway stabilizer. No. Tearaway stabilizer. Got the hot water and put it on my finger and touched my finger all the way around and right here. I didn't do anything with the back. You can see where this is wet still. It'll wash out the first time you wash your shirt. And I really like using the wash away stabilizer on these instead of using tearaway or cutaway or whatever else. I've been experimenting each time and I like using this. All right. I appreciate you watching. Don't forget to like and share and post pictures on my Facebook group so I can see what you've done with this. Thanks for watching. Merry Christmas. Enjoy.